Hi, my name's Simon Frisby. I'm one of the founders of Etchr. We're an Australian art supplies brand, and we also teach art online. And today I'm in the Jackson studio to tell you a little bit about our story. So we started Etchr back in 2017. It was myself, my co-founder Jan. So I met Jan actually back at university. We studied together and we were great friends, and we went off into our separate worlds and worked separately. And then we knew, I think, that one day we would want to come back together and work together and hopefully start something wonderful. And when we met Darren, I think all the stars kind of aligned and we said, okay, we have something here that, is really worth us dedicating our time to. Yeah, so Jan and I were introduced to Darren through a mutual friend. He said, look, Darren's created this amazing product, which he's launched on Kickstarter. It's got some traction, but he wants to turn it into a proper business. We sort of worked with Darren to relaunch the bag that he created, a sort of new and improved version called the Etchr Art Satchel and Field Case, and we launched them on Kickstarter. We had 1,880 people say that, yes, we'd love that product if you can develop it. And those people helped fund this project and essentially helped us get Etchr underway. That was the first product, and that sort of seed of a community was what we kind of grew over time. So we tend to try to work with independent designers on as many products as possible. Darren, one of our original designers and one of the founders, was a real specialist bag designer. And so we sort of built out our carry range with Darren with his expertise, but we needed to kind of branch out. So we went to Kickstarter and we looked for projects that had been successfully funded and had sort of built up that community momentum and would be of interest to our existing customers as well. So then we approached the designers of those products. Stephanie Law was the first one who designed our mini palette. And then the second one we did was with Erwin Leanne, who did the perfect sketchbook. And we sort of said to these guys, hey, why don't we do this on an ongoing basis? People love your products. Let's bring them into the Etchr fold, and we can support the development and the manufacturing, customer service and marketing of these products and make sure that they kind of last beyond a Kickstarter project. So we like to rely upon these designers, all of whom are artists, and actually know the pain points that they're looking to solve. And we sort of say, look, you've got free reign to tell us, what paper you want to use, the sort of binding you want to use, how you kind of, want this to be packaged. What are the shortfalls of some of the products out there on the market already? And we sort of give them a lot of free reign to kind of sample and make new prototypes and do all sorts of fun things. And sometimes we'll then throw up the product, onto a social media or talk about it to our existing mailing list and sort of say, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And we sort of gather feedback and iterate that way with these designers. So I would say that we really provide a supporting function to allow these kind of independent designers to make sure that, they can deliver the best possible product. We try to work with designers who have successfully delivered a product before. So that's why we've sort of, found people like Stephanie and Erwin and also Darren on Kickstarter, because they had sort of come up with an idea, they tested it, they developed it, they understand the commercial realities of delivering a product as well, and they understand the feedback from the community. By sort of selecting people in that fashion, we've made sure that, I guess, we sort of can align, on something that's actually going to make sense for the long term. Having said that, sometimes we'll just kind of go all out and make a product that, the designer really wants to make, and it's something that we know that a lot of artists will really want. And I guess the Perfect Sketchbook Signature Series is a good example of that. That was kind of Erwin Leanne's pet project, our sketchbook designer. We used Fabriano paper. The binding is beautiful, the covers are beautiful, it has watermarks and all sorts of fun things, and it's just something that's really nice for us to make for people out there as well. So our sketchbook range was really all designed by Erwin Leanne. He's a Singaporean watercolorist and teacher. He launched a product called the Perfect Sketchbook on Kickstarter, which was a huge success. He had a real kind of cult following with that product, and we sort of said to him, look, let's make this an ongoing reality. So we worked with Erwin to release the Perfect Sketchbook, which, was his sort of favorite 300 gram paper and beautifully binded, and, it kind of had all the bells and whistles. And then we worked with Erwin to develop a bunch of other sketchbooks, like our Etchr sketchbooks, from hot press, cold press, all 100% cotton. And I think the interesting thing was that Erwin sort of said to us, look, 100% cotton is obviously the artist's choice for watercolor, but not many people are really doing it for sketchbooks. And he said, and I understand because it's a smaller sort of market, but we really should do it. And I think when we entered that space, it kind of helped open people's eyes to the possibilities of 100% cotton sketchbooks. So we also released a range of accordion sketchbooks. They're all 100% cotton. They come in both hot press and cold press. And we had some feedback from actually one of our Canadian retailers who said, in this space, we don't see enough 100% cotton accordions. Can you guys make something? And so we obviously went back to Erwin, our sketchbook designer, and said, look, what do you think? Can we put something together? And I suppose that's how our accordion range was born. It's really interesting to see how people use them. Some people will do portraits on each side. Some people will do a big landscape. Some people will take them traveling and sort of have different scenes on each side of the paper. And I think it just opens up people's minds to what they can create when they're sort of enabled by a product like that. Our palettes are designed by Stephanie Law, who's a watercolorist from Oakland in California. She has a very whimsical style, lots of kind of beautiful sort of metallic features. She has, a huge following as well. And she created the mini palette so that she could take her favorite colors with her wherever she went. And so the mini palette, the original one that we released with her, had 37 wells in a sort of tiny tin can with, a mixing wells as well. And then we released a 19 well version, which has been very popular. So we launched Etchr Studio, our online learning platform, back in 2020. The pandemic had just begun, people were stuck inside. We had a very large mailing list because we obviously were selling direct to consumer back then in a big way. And we also knew a lot of art teachers. And we said, what can we do here to actually get people to make more art while they're, stuck inside? We started doing online art classes, initially just on YouTube. The interest kind of picked up, and eventually we said, hey, there's actually an opportunity here to do this on a bigger scale. Began working with more teachers, developing more content, gradually built up our library, and ended up actually launching a completely different website. So now we work with about 250 or more teachers. We have sort of 400 plus hours of art classes. We receive emails very frequently from people saying, hey, your classes helped us get through the pandemic, or your classes have really, made my retirement much richer. We love sharing that, amongst the team, and I think it really helps them kind of bring meaning to their work as well. When we look for new teachers, we often work on a referral basis. So if we've already worked with a wonderful teacher, a teacher that has delivered a class that was phenomenal, and a teacher who has really interesting work, we say to them, look, do you know any other artists just like you who would be interested in working with us? Then they go through a bit of a thorough review process with our team, make sure that their sort of tech setup is also quite good. And then we end up doing like a sort of smaller class with them. And if that goes really well, we often then say, hey, would you like to do a longer form course? Something that's, 6 weeks, 7 weeks long. And those courses have actually been the thing that have been a real interest to our community, particularly since the world started opening up again. If we don't have an artist that's been referred to us by an existing teacher, we will go and look for artists that have a really interesting style and who have some teaching experience. We'll then reach out to them and say, hey, would you be interested in potentially working with us and developing a short form class? And if they kind of come back to us and they go through a bit of a screening process and say yes, they would be interested, then we'll release a short form class with them. And then if that goes really well, and they were really easy to work with, and the students that attended that class really enjoyed it, we might say to them, look, would you be interested in actually doing a longer form course, which is multi-week? So that's sort of like the process from start to finish. And if the course was really successful, we might have them back to do something else as well. So our online classes were initially very focused on watercolor, gouache, and sketching. And I think that was just a factor of our products. They were very much catering towards watercolorists and urban sketchers. We've now sort of said, well, we need to round this out and start developing more acrylic content with markers. We've even branched into mindfulness art content, which has been really interesting. So we're sort of rounding out that subject and medium offering to make sure that we can cater to as many people as possible. So we do a podcast as well. We release new podcasts when we bring on board teachers that are doing courses with us. And that allows our community just to get to know them a little bit more before they sort of say, yes, I would like to do a course with them. And it's really interesting because you learn some amazing things about people when you're sort of talking one-on-one. You get a sense of how this teacher would actually teach as well. And, what inspires them, what they love, what they don't love about making art. Overall, it's been, I think, a fantastic part of what we do. So recently we've been thinking about how can we sort of broaden the sort of audience for what we do and I guess introduce art into more people's lives. And that sort of led us to start playing around with mindfulness content, so art for mindfulness. So we've developed a range of sort of short classes, things that you might do on a daily basis that might only go for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Very simple things that just kind of allow you to focus on what you're doing and relax. And that's been really interesting, and it got really broad appeal. So we're very excited about the potential there as well. Etchr Studio integrates with retailers all around the world. We've been really excited about working with retailers like Jackson's who, refer customers to us and say, hey, you've got your first class with Etchr for free. Those customers come on board and sort of, can pick whatever class they wish and sort of try out the content, play around with their supplies, kind of use the materials and be inspired. So we started off calling our brand Etchr Lab. Etchr had no specific meaning, but it did have the connotations of, making a mark. Lab was kind of brought into the name because we thought, well, we want to be creating and designing new products with designers. We should think about it as a laboratory. So we put the two together, and that's how we came up with Etchr Lab. We started off with the llama as our logo as well, because we had carry products, and llamas, are fantastic for carrying things. They're also just really cool creatures, and I think people tend to gravitate towards them. Etchr Studio, which is our online art learning platform, we sort of said we need to carry over the Etchr brand name and ethos, but we need to differentiate it from our products, particularly because we don't want to sort of just have our products featured in our content as well. We want artists to use the products that they wish. And we also separated the websites because we wanted people to realize that the artists and teachers that we work with can use whatever products they wish. They don't have to just use our Etchr Lab art products. And that allows them to sort of maintain their authenticity and sort of show people how they work in reality. We actually started off with a mission statement of simply make more art. And that was really derived from the fact that our original products, our bags, were designed to help people make art on the go and, make art when previously they might not have been able to. As we expanded our product range, we sort of said, well, what are we doing here? I mean, we've started going into classes and sketchbooks and palettes and all sorts of things. And at the end of the day, I think what we're really doing is celebrating creativity, not only helping people make more art, but also helping our designers, come up with wonderful ideas and deliver them to the people that want them. We've been a remote team from day one. I mean, even, Jan was based in Perth when I was based in Melbourne with Darren. That's just been something that we have been doing from the very start. And so we've been very lucky to actually be able to attract people into our team from all over the world that have amazing talents and abilities that we might not be able to find locally. So we have a number of artists that work in the company that obviously provide us feedback on both the products and the content, and definitely help us determine the sort of online courses that we'd like to teach. We also work with hosts, people that kind of help present the teachers and make sure that the teachers are kind of sticking to the curriculum and staying on track. We have a sort of design and editing team which do a wonderful job with all of the sort of marketing content, but also the online classes. And we have a sort of operations and logistics team for our products as well. Jan is the CEO of the company. He has a sort of great background in logistics and manufacturing, looks after our team exceptionally well. And I sort of look after the marketing and sales side of things. So yeah, it's obviously a very diverse team, doing lots of different things. And at the end of the day, we just sort of bring people back to like what we're trying to achieve in our mission. And I think it really resonates.